Hi, everybody. It's Tim Constantine from the Washington Times, joined for America by David Bozell. Hi, David. How are you?
Hey Tim, how are you?
I'm doing all right. There's a little election going on, and it seems like it is very close, though I pretty much tune out most of the mainstream media because I don't believe how they approach it on either side. There are media outlets that love Donald Trump. There are a lot of media outlets that hate Donald Trump. There's media outlets that didn't used to like Kamala Harris, but they think she's the greatest now. So I pay very little attention, but what I did want to do, you're in the know. You're in the circle in Washington, you know people, but you know the process. And so I wanted to talk about what will be, not just in generic terms, oh, the economy, the border, what will be the two big difference makers in these last couple of weeks of the election? Because you can have a great plan on the economy. Donald Trump is generally seen by the public as being more trustworthy on the economy than Kamala Harris, but people aren't quite sure that they like him. So, what will be the difference maker if we are truly in a tight race? What will be the difference maker between now and the first week of November?
Well, if I'm Donald Trump's campaign, and I say that very specifically, I'm trying to do everything I can to remind everybody about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Incidentally, I know there's a lot of controversy about how do you pronounce her name? Is it Kamala? Is it Kamala? I was down in South Texas earlier this week. You know what they call Kamala?
What?
Kamala.
Kamala.
Which is okay is how, and Mala is bad. So in South Texas, I don't think she has a shot in South Texas. They call her Kamala. So the thing is, the difference makers. This North Carolina situation with the hurricane is bad, Tim. It is. Everyone is seeing it all over their feeds. Of course, you're not going to see it on your legacy upper class media. This is a bad situation for Kamala to get out there and say, here's $750 is a joke.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing that it's I think, going to swing an independent, perhaps female voter in Trump's direction. And I think if I'm the Trump campaign, things of that nature that kind of keep Trump kind of out of the limelight for a little bit, and reminding people that people are, sadly, people are hurting in this economy, and Kamala has had every opportunity to fix it, and be an influential force in fixing it, and she hasn't.
Well,
So I think
when you
that's going to be the
mention that
biggest difference maker.
$750, that's a slap two ways. It's a double slap because one, if your life is upside down, $750 means nothing. But $750 is a reminder, too, that in the Biden Harris economy, that's about a week's worth of groceries and maybe a tank of gas. There's not a whole lot more you can get for $750 at this point. And so it's really, I think, not once, but twice slapping those people.
Absolutely right, Tim. There needs to be a show of force from the United States military to help these people, get them to shelter as best as possible, get food in their bellies as best as possible, help these kids out. I mean, apparently there's reports about kids sort of roaming the woods. Hopefully those kids are being tended to and rushed to safety. But there's I mean, when Joe Biden comes back to the White House and says, I went down there and they're happy,
Right.
that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, Tim. And really for no Democrat to call him out on that, it just shows you everything in terms of like what kind of heart that they have.
Well, and I like to look, when you have these human tragedies, I don't want to politicize them, but I do like to compare apples to apples. Now, as you know, I'm a Florida guy. And so over the years, I have seen hurricane after hurricane after hurricane. And what has been done very well in the state of Florida is cooperation between the federal government and the state government. They communicate.
Right.
They bring in people. They have people staged a few days ahead, so when the hurricane is coming, it's going to be trouble, and you prep
Right.
for it. But then the federal government has been a good friend, a good ally of the state of Florida in making that happen. That was lacking, in my opinion, on both counts here. Both the state and the federal government have really dropped the ball so far. God bless them. I hope everything comes around, but it hasn't been an immediate, fast, or effective response.
Oh, I don't mind politicizing it at all, Tim. Go back to Katrina. We're all old enough to remember Katrina. The Democrats had no problem whatsoever tying George W. Bush and the federal government's response to Katrina. No problem. Within 48 hours, they were down there doing press conferences.
Right. The irony is the mayor and the governor down there had turned him away. The feds were ready, and the locals turned them away.
Exactly right. Led by Democrats
Right.
down in New Orleans and Louisiana proper. So I have no shame in politicizing this. This is an inept administration who one day they're broke. I mean, today FEMA's out there saying they have something on their website saying, "Well, we do have money and we'll get it to the victims of the hurricane." Okay, your secretary was just out there just a few days ago saying, "Well, that may not be the case," but all right. Uh, uh, I have zero qualms about politicizing this because they have been inept, and their major candidate's response of $750 is just a joke.
Yeah, and just a final note on that. This is crazy, but a little over a year ago, Turkey and Syria experienced a horrific earthquake. And so I went over and I got together with the people in Syria. It's a mess. It's a mess every day because they've been in civil war for 13 years. So that was not so good. But in Turkey, we don't think of Turkey as being far beyond us in advancement. It's a beautiful country, it's wonderful people, but you don't necessarily think of their government as the leading government on planet Earth. I will tell you what, on that earthquake, they were all over it. They had the first new homes built in about 90 days. They were out there, they had temporary housing for people, but then they had actually full, done, finished homes for these people. It was an amazing response, and I haven't seen any of that out of our federal government here. All right, the next question, and this is going to sound like I'm kidding, but I'm when I explain it, but I'm not. I want to talk about what will be an October surprise. What is your theory for what could be? Obviously, it's a surprise. We don't know what it'll be, but traditionally, it has been, a sex scandal or it has been some sort of financial scandal. Except, this is my worry: is the Democrat playbook in recent years, whether it was affirming Supreme Court justices or running against presidential candidates, has not been simply to find something wrong, it's been to fabricate something that is wrong. There were people that complained about Justice Kavanaugh that admitted later, okay, I made it up. And when we look at the 2016 race, the Russia Gate stuff was literally created by the Democrats and the Hillary Clinton campaign. And so I'm wondering what will be the October surprise, keeping in mind it may very well be fictional.
It's a tough question. Let me tell you where I wrote a list down. Okay, they've tried to tag him as a criminal, Trump that is. They've tried to tag Trump as a criminal. That has not worked. They've tried to tag Trump as colluding with a foreign enemy. That has not worked. They've tried to tag Trump as a rapist. That has not worked. They've tried to tag Trump as a racist. That has not worked. And two people tried to kill him, and that has not worked.
Right.
Whoever they are trying to pull out all the stops to stop Donald Trump from being elected. What could it be? I don't think anything in the financial space is going to sway anybody. Everybody knows his financial record. Maybe they could get a deeper dive into his tax returns. I don't think anyone's really going to care.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Billy Bush tape in 2016. They tried the sexual stuff. I don't think anybody's going to care if something like that were to come out. I think the Jack Smith, his briefing, his filing the other day was another attempt at this. Trying to say, Donald Trump saying, or a campaign aide. I have to get this correct. A campaign aide said that Donald Trump said, "So what?" about Mike Pence on January 6th. That was another
So
attempt
Jack
at an
Smith
October
says
surprise.
that a campaign aide said that Donald Trump said something that was
Right.
nasty.
Exactly right, Tim. I think they're grasping at straws. Trump very much is a Teflon candidate. These things do tend to bounce off of him. I don't think any sort of an attempt at an October surprise is going to work, but they will try.
Here's what I believe, and these sound horrible because they are horrible. I think they will be completely fabricated, but there will be one of two things. And the two groups that the Democrats believe they need in order to win this election are women, and Kamala Harris clearly polls better than Donald Trump among women, particularly middle aged women, and the black vote. And Donald Trump, while he only gets 18 or 19%, that's way more than any Republican has gotten since Ronald Reagan. So I believe the Democrats are worried that they need to slim that margin quite a bit. So I think you're going to see one of two things. You will find someone who seems very sympathetic. A pathetic, older, middle aged woman will claim that Donald Trump raped her and will tell the story and will cry. And they will be in hopes that that will reach a certain element. And then if it's proven not to be true, or the woman admits after the first week of November, I made that up, it doesn't matter. It's too late. The impact has already been taken. That's one scenario. And the other will be someone will come forward with just a disgraceful racist story about something, only it will be personal, not, oh, I heard. They will claim that something happened directly to them by and from Donald Trump, maybe even include his family just to infuriate him and his team even more. But I honestly believe the surprise this election year will be a completely fabricated story, because that seems to be the modus operandi, and then there is no consequence after.
I think you're 1,000% correct about the fabrication. Look, if they had something, okay, Donald Trump has been in the political limelight since he came down the escalator in 2015. If they had something concrete in terms of their Oppo research, it would have come out a long, long time ago. So I totally agree with you that whatever they try is 99.9% chance going to be a fabrication.
Which is kind of sad that in today's world it will get reported breathlessly by the media. I always think of Wolf Blitzer. I don't know if he got emphysema when he hit age 50 or what, but all of a sudden, everything Wolf talks about is so exciting that he can hardly breathe. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
right, the media, the Democrats are going to try to Jussie Smollett their way through this race.
Yeah, there was a time when the media actually cared if what they were saying was true or not. Now they just know, oh, somebody else typed this, so we'll repeat it. And that will somehow absolve our responsibility. Final question before I let you go, and that is, as it gets closer, you and I always like to do predictions. What do you see? Who's going to win? What's the breakdown of the delegate count?
I am increasingly bullish on President Trump. Increasingly bullish. He seems to have Pennsylvania on somewhat of a lockdown, and I am north of 280 at a minimum right now.
All right, I told you I think he'll win.
Glass half full, Tim. Glass half full.
That's it. I think he'll win North Carolina. I think that's even more true now. I think he'll win Pennsylvania. I do not think he'll win the Rust Belt states, even though I think they're competitive there and they're forcing the Harris campaign to spend a lot of time and money and effort there instead of elsewhere. It comes down, in my mind, to Georgia and Arizona. I think he can win both.
I like Georgia better than Arizona.
Fair enough. Kerry Lake is dragging it down. In fact, they have abandoned Kerry Lake out there, the Republicans.
Yes, they have.
So, I wish they had abandoned her 6 months ago.
I wish she had abandoned her pursuit 6 months ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean. All right, my friend. Always a pleasure. From the Washington Times and for America, it's Dave Bozell. I'm Tim Constantine. Thanks for joining us.